thing on the face of the earth that would ever push me to do what I'm going to do right now. But Flair, you have pushed me as far as you're going to push. Right here is $25,000. And it goes to any human being that can eliminate Ric Flair from wrestling. Take a look at it. Paul Jones, you and your whole entourage of people. Dick Slater. Kabuki. The names, the list, it goes on and on. Any human being that can eliminate Ric Flair for me has got $25,000 cash. I'll give it to any living human being. Jack Briscoe, you are world's champion. You took the belt from me. You're the man. You can do it. It's here for you. Come and get it, please. Somebody take the damn money. I want rid of Flair.
That, of course, the legendary Harley Race, who passed away last weekend at the age of 76. One of the meanest, baddest asses of professional wrestling. Back in the NWA days, back when I started watching wrestling in the 70s, he toyed a little bit in the AWA, but made his fame out of Kansas City, Missouri. As he mentioned, 8-time world champion. Never a good guy. Was always a heel. I remember watching him when he was in the WWF at WrestleMania 3 when I was one of the 93,000 Hulkamaniacs at the Pontiac Silverdome in outside of Detroit, Michigan, as Harley Race wrestled. I think it was the Junkyard Dog when he was King Harley, if you will. But one of the toughest wrestlers you'd ever meet. You ask any of them that have wrestled against him or got to know him. Nice guy out of the ring or whatever in his later days, but boy, in the ring, there was nobody badder than Harley Race. Passed away last week at the age of 76. Just thought kind of a tribute to him as we open up this week's Captain Lou Extravaganza here on 12-Ounce Sports Radio and 12-Ounce TV. Glad you could join us here tonight. We've got a cornucopia of a show lined up for you tonight, although we do have a guest scheduled at the bottom of the hour. As we always mention, it's always hockey season here at, pardon me real quick, here at the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And joining us at the bottom of the hour, a new commissioner at the Division II level of the ACHA, and that's John Eckles. He's going to join us. Those of you that are familiar with the ACHA, especially on the West Coast, he's been a coach out at Utah State. He was anyways for about 16 years, quite a resume. John is the new commissioner of Division II, and we're going to effort him to get on here at the bottom of the first hour. We're going to be on here tonight, Tuesday, August the 6th, until 10 o'clock Eastern Time. After that, it's wide open, and you can give us a call and be a part of the show on our hotline, 224-423-0717. That is the number to call if you want to talk anything you want tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We've got our previews continuing in the NFL season with that coming up. Gosh, it's going to be 30 days, 4 weeks and a day, 2 days, I should say. September the 5th, 19, I almost said my birthday, because it's my birthday anyways. That's right, 2019, September the 5th. It's the 100th season of the NFL. It's going to be the Bears and the Packers as they renew their rivalry here coming up in September. But tonight, we're going to preview the AFC North. The AFC North, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati. What team is going to come out of that division on top, in our opinion? We're going to go over that tonight. And it's going to be, I'll tell you, is Cleveland for real? I'll tell you, they're getting all the hype. They're being anointed the next big thing, if you will. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to do our preview of the NFL or the AFC North, I should say, at the top of the second hour here tonight on the show. So you may want to stick around for that. We're going to talk the Major League trade deadline that went down last Wednesday. everything came to a flurry. The big deals did, anyways, including what I think was the biggest one. That, of course, Zach Greinke going to the Houston Astros. An instance where the rich get richer. Greinke, of course, with a no-trade clause that he did not want to go to the Yankees. So that was pretty much a given he wasn't going to go there. But did that make Houston strong or what? And with Boston getting swept by the Yankees, they're pretty much out of it. But the Yankees, the injury bug has hit them. We're going to go through that as well here tonight. So we're going to run down the Major League Baseball here shortly. And also, on the football side of things, we are going to continue our NCAA previews as far as the conference previews, if you will. We're going to go through the Big 12. We'll give you their over-unders coming into the year. Is it going to be Oklahoma again in the college football playoff? Does Tom Herman and his Texas Longhorns have something to say about that? And I'll tell you, Oklahoma, I think they may have the underdog favorite for the Heisman again. Jalen Hurts is getting a little bit of love, but I don't know if he's getting enough. And I got a feeling that he might be there. He might be going to New York City come December as be one of the trio anyways for the possibility of going to for the Heisman to be the third one in a row for Oklahoma quarterback, so can't buck his odds. Or is Iowa State, Mark Campbell's team, are they going to be there in the end? Are they going to pull the shocker? Well, we'll talk about it here coming up tonight as well. Reminder that you can join us again live, 224-423-0717. That'll be our call-in number tonight for you. If you want to talk anything in the world of sports, you name it. And you're going to have carte blanche tonight. It's a cornucopia of sports here tonight on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're going to talk NHL. Joel Edmondson, he got himself the restricted free agent tag taken away as he signed a new deal with the St. Louis Blues. So the defending Stanley Cup champions getting one of their pieces of the puzzle solved as they look to defend their NHL Stanley Cup championship. Hard to believe, but training camp is going to start for the NHL in less than, well, in about a month, I'd say, right after Labor Day. So, yeah, 4 weeks from today, you'll start to see the teams start to trickle in for Labor Day or for training camp for the NHL. And one of the cool things for me here in the state of Michigan is the Kraft Hockey Series. They're Kraft Hockeyville, I should say. They're going up to the Great White North of the UP of Michigan again, and they're going to go to Calumet. They're restoring the world's oldest professional hockey arena, as that was the site at the beginning of the NHL back in the day, the Calumet Coliseum, a little town up in the upper Michigan, about, I don't know, maybe 3,000 people, if that. And they're going to have a NHL preseason hockey game up there. It's going to be the St. Louis Blues, your aforementioned Stanley Cup champions, and my Detroit Red Wings. And when it gets closer to that, we're going to talk to a personality that's been in the Upper Peninsula Sports Airways. Jimmy Young's going to join us in September. We're going to preview that. But that's down the road. Right now, hockey season is soon, but their training camp starts Labor Day weekend. Speaking of training camps, and we're going to turn it over, maybe we'll talk a little holdout too. Zeke Elliott came out today, or his camp came out and said that he's not going to play a down this year unless he gets a new contract. Now, I had a chance to look. The top 5 players at each position, and it's crazy, is, Le'Veon Bell right now is right up there with Todd Gurley. Now, what I heard and what I read was that the Cowboys offered him a guaranteed amount of about $35 million. He turned that down. Zeke Elliott, I think he wants Todd Gurley money, which is understandable. But we talked about this last week, and I'll bring it. It bears mention to bring it up again because you got the likes of Melvin Gordon, who wants to be traded to anywhere right now, as he's holding out with the Los Angeles Chargers. Zeke Elliott is making $3.9 million a year. Obviously, for his production, he's underpaid. But now it's just a battle of leverage and who's going to get that leverage. But he's under contract for 2 years. And the Cowboys have him potentially, they can franchise him for 2 more years. He'll get his money, but not for a couple of years. And we talked about this last week about, the rookie deals and the position that rookies that are of this caliber are put in with this contract. Now, the only way it's going to be different is when the CBA gets renegotiated. I know they had a bargaining session yesterday, but the CBA with the players and the owners doesn't expire until the end of next season. Now, way back, I don't want to say way back, but 10 years ago or so, the last of the big rookie deals with Sam Bradford, Matthew Stafford, the other first-round picks, where they were getting crazy money, $50, $60 million contracts. That's a thing of the past. The veterans said, whoa, we can't have that. The middle-of-the-road guys were even, not very happy with it, because you had some guys, 4 or 5 years in, not making anywhere near that, and the unproven rookies who came with all the splash and pizzazz were getting that guaranteed money, getting those huge $50, $60 million contracts. So they leveled it off to a rookie pay scale, if you will, a rookie contract scale based on what round you were in even. Well, Zeke Elliott was the 4th pick, I believe, the 4th or 5th pick in the draft 3 years ago. He's had some off-the-field issues. We all know that, with a 6-game suspension. And he's holding out right now. He says he's not going to play it down. I have a feeling that's the only way he's going to get his point across, is if he doesn't play and he doesn't cave. Dallas is in kind of a tricky spot. We've talked about this all year. They've got, they've got to take care of Dak Prescott. And they also have to take care of their hotshot running back, or a wide receiver, rather, And there's a ways to go before they can do it, before they can really do that. I just hearken back to what we've talked about really all year. When they've got Amari Cooper that they gave up a first-round draft pick for, they're not going to let him walk at the end of the year, because, if nothing else, they're going to look awful damn foolish, because they gave up a first-round draft pick for Amari Cooper, and he can walk up and say, hey, if it weren't for me, it's going to be, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have made it. So now we've got, hold on one second here. The magic of live radio again. So you've got Amari Cooper looking to get his money, and of course you got Dak Prescott. But you got Zeke Elliott, in a roundabout way, again, is just, what they don't have to pay him. And he's technically under contract, but it's going to come down to, who budges first. But getting back to the leverage thing, the Cowboys have all the leverage right now. They claim they can stay with Alfred Morris. I don't buy that. Alfred Morris is a great running back. I get that. But it's all going to come down to me, it's going to come down to the way the season starts. And that's going to be just like what Emmitt Smith did back in the 90s, 25, 26 years ago. The Cowboys were 0-2. So Jerry Jones, he, swallowed the toad and took he signed Emmitt Smith, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. And they also had, remember, they had Michael Irvin and they had Troy Aikman back then. A little different situation now. It's going to be, cat and mouse. who's going to budge first. But right now, like I said, $3.9 million is what Zeke Elliott's getting paid this year. Obviously, he's worth a lot more than that, but he's under contract. And until the CBA is renegotiated, and that brings me up to another issue with the CBA and the, coming up at the end of next year. How far are the veterans willing to go with that rookie pay scale? Are they gonna be willing to risk the possibility of them not getting as much money by letting the rookie sign for a bigger contract? Because let's face it, that the owners are not going to get rid of the salary cap. That's here to stay. I'll be shocked if they get rid of that. And you've got the franchise tag, I think, is something that you could see go away. Now, is that something that Emmitt Smith is going to, or Emmitt Smith, Ezekiel Elliott's going to try to sign before that? Obviously, he wants an extension. He wants Gurley type money. I think he wants more. He wants $50 million guaranteed at least. He wants to be paid. Obviously, wants as much as he can get. He wants wide receiver money, which I just don't think is going to happen. Because you think about it for a second. We talked about this last week with Zeke Elliott. They could potentially have him under contract for 4 more years. If he doesn't sit out, he's going to play, 5 years. 26 years old. And that's the peak of running backs. I mean, obviously you have some that play a lot longer, but the Cowboys are willing to pay him $3.9 million. I guarantee it. They're willing to pay him $3.9 million this year and next year. Then worry about the franchise tag 2 years from now. Then he'll get $15 million a year. Is he going to be willing to do that? I don't know. But then you've got the other end of the situation, Le'Veon Bell. People are trying to compare him to Le'Veon Bell. But remember this about Le'Veon Bell. He wasn't under contract. He didn't sign the franchise tender. He didn't have a contract. He just didn't play the whole year. So he wasn't under contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers for 2 more years or whatever it was. He was done. And that's when, he was able to sign with the Jets, got the money he wanted, and, from all reports, he's happy as a lark in New York with the Jets. Zeke Elliott right now, he's not under contract he's under contract with the Cowboys. I don't know if Jerry Jones is going to budge on this. I listened to what Stephen Jones had to say earlier today, and, he's under the impression this isn't going to get done until at least they bring training camp, head back to Dallas in a couple of weeks, or next week. He gives you the answer that he's going to be signed before the season starts. That could be the only way that Zeke, obviously that's what he says, Zeke Elliott says, that's going to be the only way he gets into camp. I really want to watch that because they've got Amari Cooper they've got to worry about, and they've got Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's going to want to get paid. And especially if they get to the lofty heights that they think they can get to. And that's winning the division and going to the Super Bowl. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. Their defense doesn't scare me. If they get any kind of prolonged holdout from Ezekiel Elliott, they're in trouble. Because in my opinion, the Philadelphia Eagles are the class of that division. And that's going to stay, at least for a couple of years. If Carson Wentz has any kind of a year that he's capable of, they're going to win. Now, the Cowboys, a playoff team, they're borderline. They're a borderline playoff team. The one benefit they have is that they're playing in a division that, in my opinion, they're going to get 5 wins. They're going to possibly split with the Eagles. Worst case scenario, they're going to get 4 wins. Because I think they're going to sweep Washington and sweep the Giants. I know they're kind of rivalry games, but every game's a rivalry game, that division. Just like the NFC North. Every game's a rivalry game with the Bears and the Packers, the Bears and the Lions, Bears and the Vikings. Same thing in the NFC East. But I think Washington and the Giants are fool's gold. You got a coach in the hot seat in Washington, Jay Gruden. And so I think Dallas is going to benefit from that. And that could turn out to be a detriment to Ezekiel Elliott. Because I guarantee you, if Dallas starts out the regular season without Elliott and they go 2-0 or 3-1 or 4-1, they're not going to be in any hurry to sign him. Now, resting your body isn't always a bad thing with NFL football. But, you also lose service time. And he might hold out until November. But right now, the strong words out of the camp of Zeke Elliott is that he's not playing until the regular season is over. He's not playing until he gets a contract. And that could be when the regular season's over. Who knows? So we'll stay tuned for that. It'll be fun for guys like me and for you, the listener, or the viewer here on 12 Ounce Sports TV to kind of keep in pace with, keep track with. So I just got a note from John Eckles. Will be joining us at the bottom of this hour in about 9 minutes. The new Division II commissioner of the ACHA. They announced a week or so ago, again, just a formal announcement with something we already knew, that they're going to be heading back to Dallas next year for the national championships. And I'll tell you, you've heard me brag about, all year. And, we get hot and heavy here with the ACHA on this program, especially after Christmas time. And what a fun time it was. You get 72 teams down there for 5 days, for 10 days. 3 men's divisions, 2 women's divisions, and it is some fantastic hockey. The ACHA, the only official non-varsity hockey association affiliated with USA Hockey, and it's a great brand of hockey and very competitive. And what I really like about it is, the hands-on approach with the players and the coaches. I've gotten to know a lot of the coaches over the years working with the ACHA on air in the last 5 years. And, 99.9% of them are very approachable. The players, these kids, a lot of the times they pay their own way just to play. And it's amazing. I've talked to some of the stories of the teams that get down to the Nationals, the fundraising they do. What I like the most about it is that, the discipline that these kids have and the coaches, in the short amount of time they have when they qualify for the Nationals down in Dallas, a lot of these teams have like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to come up with, tens of thousands of dollars to go, and they do it. And it is indeed a lot of fun to be with these players, the men and women that put their time in with the ACHA, the coaches, the administrators, the great group of broadcasters that we had with the ACHA TV on our YouTube television channel over for the Nationals. We had a great crew. The production was fantastic. It's, jumped in leaps and bounds, and can't wait for all that. Next year, it's going to be March 19th through the 29th. I'm assuming it'll start again with the D1 and D2 championships, and then the D3 and the women's D1 and D2 will close out the tournament like they did last year. And boy, it's 7 months away. The countdown's on, and I'll tell John that when he comes on here in a few minutes. But we're looking forward to talking with him. Second hour is going to be football preview time again, as we will have our AFC North preview, and also we will have our Big 12 preview. And we're going to talk even more baseball with the trade deadline coming up. What about the Mets? We've been trashing them, and I got to bow down to the New York Mets. I know there's still 6 or 7 teams jumbled in that wild card race, but they're over 500, or right at 500. Who would have thought? And Marcus Stroman, that could be the deal that helps get them over the top into the wild card. 6 weeks ago, everybody in the world thought they were sellers, and they were to a certain extent. And now all of a sudden they're playing lights out, and they're right in the thick of it. Their coach could be going from being on the hot seat, their manager rather, from being on the hot seat to winning Manager of the Year. It's amazing. A lot of baseball left, but they're playing like gangbusters. And on the other end of the spectrum, well, I tell you, it's tough. I'm having a hard time right now. As for those of you that know me, obviously, being a Michigan fan, I'm from the state of Michigan. I'm a true die-in-the-wool Detroit Tigers fan. And I saw a stat about an hour ago before I came on the show. Detroit is on pace to have the worst winning percentage at home ever. Right now, the 1939 St. Louis Browns have it. See if anybody can answer this question. Where did the Browns go? Where did their franchise take off to? 1939, I think their winning percentage at home was like 23% winning clip, 235 or something. Detroit is on that pace. And they're 31 and 30. I'm going to have to look it up. They're on pace. They got to win 18 games to get to 50. Detroit does. They're not going to do it. This is some bad baseball. The regroup, the retooling, whatever you want to call it, the rebuild is in full mode. And I saw something today on the MLB.com website that said my Detroit Tigers have the 6th best farm system in all of Major League Baseball. Boy, they can't develop fast enough. I love baseball, and it's my third favorite sport now. I've talked about it a million times. Growing up as a kid, I couldn't wait for the summertime to come. I would track who was playing out in the West Coast. Did that with hockey. I would always try to track who I could listen to at night, to what games. And it was almost where I could listen to a baseball game every night during the summer. And in hockey, I could do that with the Red Wings and the Canadiens. I used to listen to both of them whenever they played out west when, they expanded, especially in the 70s when they played the California Golden Seals and, the Colorado Rockies before they became the New Jersey Devils. And it was tough back in the 70s listening because all my teams were bad. The Lions were the best team at 500. But I'll tell you what, this Detroit Tiger team right now, oh my God, it's ugly. And they lost again this afternoon to the White Sox. White Sox are in rebuild mode. It seems like they've been in that mode for about 5 years now. And, I just look at it. And Detroit made a couple of trades last week, getting rid of Nick Castellanos at the trade deadline and Shane Green to the Castellanos to the Cubs. And he's doing good there so far. I don't blame Detroit for making that trade because, like I said last week, they weren't going to get anything. He was going to walk at the end of the year. They had to do something. It's just crazy how it went down. I got home from my day job last Wednesday, my real job, if you will, and was waiting for the Tiger game to start. And they said he was in the clubhouse getting ready. He was in the lineup and everything. And then, a couple of minutes before 4, the trade was consummated with the Cubs. They showed him shaking hands with everybody in the dugout. And, then Shane Green got traded to the Braves. And I heard he gave up a game-winning home run. The closer, he's having a career year for the Tigers, but he's an Atlanta Brave. But we're going to talk more about that. The winners and losers of the trade deadline. Obviously, the big winner's Houston. We'll see what kind of effect this is. We'll go through the Major League standings yet tonight as well. But coming up here shortly, we're going to talk with John Eckles from the ACHA Division II. Hey, he's going to be the new commissioner. A reminder that tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by Twin Spires. If you're a horse racing buff, I know there are some that listen to us here on the network. Check out their website through 12ouncesportsradio.com. Hit the tab for twinspires.com. It's legal. You can go on there and bet the ponies. It's a lot of fun watching the races. I know you might have a little bit of vested interest in it, betting a pop or, 2 bits or 4 bits or whatever. But check out Twin Spires. Click on our banner. You must click our banner on the bottom left of any page on our website to get get the betting bonus. It's 100% legal online, no matter where you live in the United States. That's twinspires.com. And again, it's just a fun way to keep up with horse racing, and they're one of our fine sponsors here on 12-ounce Sports Radio and 12-ounce TV. So, again, we're going to be joined shortly by John Eckles, as he's going to give us a call. And as a matter of fact, I think that might be him right there. And let's go to our guest line, and we're joined by John Eckles, the new Division II commissioner here for the ACHA. John, thanks for taking time out tonight to be with us. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you. Everything's going good. It's a blur right now.
I can just imagine. Tell us a little bit, if you will, right off the top. You know, we got the news last week or about 10 days ago that you were named commissioner. Tell us a little bit about the timeline. When did you know about the opening, and how did you come about to become our new commissioner?
Well, I knew that they were getting ready to post it. I talked to Craig Barnett, our executive chair, and he, I asked him what he thinks I should, put in for it. I've been the West region coordinator for 5, 6, 7 years now, and I've loved it. I've loved being a part of the ACHA and helping out anywhere I can. And he said, "Yeah, John, put in for it." And so I put in for it and had to interview a phone interview with 3 or 4 of them, firing questions at you. That's always a little uneasy. But no, they were it was very good. I loved it. I loved the opportunity to talk to them and hear their thoughts. And hopefully they appreciated my thoughts, my vision. And, it took another couple days. They had to finish up the interviews. And then Craig called me and said, "Hey, congratulations." And then he says, "Well, first, I guess I should ask you if, do you want the job?" I said, "Yeah." Then he said, "Congratulations." So.
Well, that's fantastic, John. It's your resume, just looking at it, being out west, as you mentioned, for quite a few years now. Great success at Utah State, 264, 87, and 16. But one of the things I was really interested in was you created the Beehive Showcase, and according to USA Hockey, it's one of the longest running showcases out in the West. I'm always interested, being, obviously from Michigan, I don't get to see a lot of the West Coast teams, but the growth of not only ACHA hockey, but college hockey and professional hockey in general has been in leaps and bounds in the last 15 to 20 years. And this is
Right.
a case in point to that.
Well, we did it. I started it right after in Colorado. They had, I think it was the Rocky Mountain or something out there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd been doing it. And we actually had to wait a year or 2 to get into it. Finally got into it, had some good success there. And about the time that they stopped doing it, I got with Weber State and said, "Hey, let's do a showcase," because the West, which many people don't realize, is massive. The other three regions other 3 regions can fit right inside the West, and we go from the Canadian border clear down to the Mexican border, and from the West Coast clear to like North Dakota, and so it's quite a large region, and with that brings travel restrictions and problems. And so I've always promoted teams to do showcases, because teams can come in and play 4 different teams, get 4 games on a weekend, and see different teams that they might not be able to see during the regular season. We've had Michigan State's come out twice. We've had some of the Texas teams coming up, California teams. Colorado's always been very big sponsor of it and doing it. And it's really been a lot of fun. And we've always ran it in Logan for USU, and then at Weber State. Well, about a couple of years ago, we added BYU. And so for some teams who are coming in and say, "Hey, we can only do 3 games," which worked out because BYU can only play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we added BYU, gave us another venue to play, and it just gives teams coming in opportunity to play a bunch of different teams that they normally wouldn't see during the season.
We're talking with John Eckles, the new Division II men's commissioner of the ACHA here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. John, I want to touch on a point you just brought up about how massive it is out west. And I've talked with the coaches in Arizona and in Texas on my show over the years. And I marvel at your success. And with the record you've had, you know, you don't just jump on a plane and fly, you know, first class to your stop and get off and you've got a day to play. These kids and yourself, you travel 12, 14 hours either by car or bus, and then a lot of times you get off the bus or out of your car and you're playing in like 2 hours. How did you achieve such a successful record? I am just floored by your success with those kind of obstacles playing out west like that.
For us, I started leaving a day early because, you know, you're so right. If you got a 10 to 12 to 13-hour bus ride, you know, guys are getting off the bus and they got bus legs, definitely. So we always tried to roll in that night before, let them get a good night's sleep in the hotel and get up and get them, you know, up and moving that next day and then play the game. But it's early on when I started coaching at Utah State, we would go to Colorado twice, and that's about an 8 to 9 hour bus ride because that's where all the power was back then. And if you wanted to, you know, make it to nationals, you almost kind of had to go through Colorado because those teams, CU and CSU, you know, coached by Ken Sickus and Kelly Newton, they were the studs out in the West. And so we started going there twice a year, and slowly but surely, our team started to see, you know, what it took as a team, as players, and as coaches to, you know, to perform at that level. And so, again, I try and push, you know, those showcases as a West coordinator to help open up and let teams, you know, travel and have, you know, teams be able to get other teams in that might normally not come out there because, again, it's almost, you know, if here we are at Utah State, and if we were to drive up to Washington and play 2 games against Washington State, it's first off such an expensive trip, and you're only getting 2 games. Where you go to that showcase, if they have one up there or wherever they have it, you're still paying the same amount of money, maybe a little bit more in hotel, but now you're playing 4 different teams, and that really helps out.
Well, John, I want to fast forward now. We've talked about this, or I have, with some of the other administrators and the coaches about the growth of the ACHA. You know, especially you've been with them now for a lot of years, and it's remarkable how exciting it's been in the last 5 years. Even now, going to one site, you get all the divisions together, and the camaraderie and everything else is amazing, but the quality of everything has stepped up. What do you attribute that to in the last 5 years?
Well, the first one, obviously, when we went out to Columbus, you know, first time doing it, always, you know, everything's going to have a few hiccups. I loved it, first off, because I wasn't just going to go watch men's Division II. I got to see the women's Division I and Division II play, and I got to see the men's Division I play. And again, players also got to see that. It helped us as a team because they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, look at that level," and that's what we're striving for. And then the second year, again, there was some travel. We weren't all located in just like one specific spot, but we were close enough to go and be able to go to the different venues. And the second year was even better. And then when we were out in Dallas last year, and I had a blast because as soon as we finished pool play where we were at, we went to where, like I said, the Division I was playing, and we got to see a lot of games and play in that big area. And I just think, when I say networking, I'm not saying, you know, to help you, but you're getting to mingle with other coaches. You're getting to mingle with other ACHA, you know, people and get to know them. And it just opens the door for the opportunity to serve and to help out. And that's what I've always liked. I think it's just going to keep getting better and better for us because, again, when you can have everyone out there, I think it's easier on the board, first off, because now they're not having men's nationals one weekend, weekend later it's men's two, and then women. Now you got them all at one spot. It's easier on everyone. And the quality, I mean, look at the broadcasting and the the coverage of it. It's gotten better and better every year. You guys do a great job and always have, but it's just growing. Everything's growing and getting better, in my opinion.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. When I first started broadcasting the games, not that they were bad, but you mentioned it, the level of the quality has gone up exponentially, and everybody involved, even, and again, not just the broadcasting, but the administrators, it's all 100% effort all the time. My question to you, John, is doing the D2 games as well as the D3 games. The D2 games were so close, it's going to be tough for you to match some of that intensity next year. I mean, those semifinal games were amazing last year.
Wow. I mean, here you kind of thought maybe Florida Gulf Coast was just going to kind of walk right through it, but both games, it wasn't really decided until the third period, and it was fun to watch because it was up and down the ice, and even though one team may have dominated a little bit more here, it didn't translate into them being any further ahead than what they should have been. Years past, it's kind of been like when we made it to the semis in St. Louis, we only had about 2.5 lines after injuries and everything. And here we go and play Michigan State, who had 4 lines. No one really, no superstar, spectacular player, but 4 lines of guys that worked hard every shift. And I think the score was 6-4, 6-3 or something like that. And then even in the championship game, I think it was Grand Valley that made it to them. And again, it was like going back and forth, and then Michigan State started pulling away and won. But now it's like, yeah, someone makes it to the semis, 4 teams. It's any one of those 4 teams that could move on, to the finals, which I think is great.
So what's going to be the toughest thing you're going to miss about coaching?
Well, so I've been out of it for a little over a year. I resigned May of 2018. And when I was out at Nationals, it kind of hit me this last year, March. The thing I think that I enjoyed the most when I was coaching was recruiting, building those relationships with coaches and players, and the challenge, to work on someone to get them to come to Utah State. And, there's kids you'd work on for 1, 2, 3 years, and then all of a sudden they're knocking at your door ready to play. And so, that I truly miss that. And trust me, I miss being on the bench, behind the bench doing, doing the game and, calling lines out. That was a ton of fun. But when August came around, after I'd resigned in May, I was driving around, and all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "Oh, I don't have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the rink to open it up, and, get the nets out, get the lights on." And so it's been bittersweet. But I believe things happen for a purpose, and I was glad things did happen. And I truly miss coaching. Don't get me wrong, but here at what I'm going to be able to do now is help so many more. That's my goal, is to try and help even more, not just Utah State or not just the West.
Right.
Now it's all of men's too, and take what the other regions have good strengths in, and try and bring them over to the West, and what the West strengths are, take them over to the Central and Southeast and Northeast, and just try and build it up. And I'm excited with what Mo and those guys have been working on with USA Hockey, streamlining things. I think it'll be, even better. Again, making it easier for those administrators, those coaches, the team representatives, getting teams ready. But it's going to be a learning curve, definitely, and I'm looking forward to it. I've already told them I may stumble many times, and I want them to be there to help me back up. But yeah, I'm excited.
So what? Last thing with, and I'll let you go, John. What's your schedule like now in August? Do you get a little bit of a breather, or is it a 12-month thing for you? Do you have you hit the ground running? What does your August
Well,
look like before the school year starts?
well, like you say, coaching is for me. It was year round because when the season was over, I was recruiting, I was planning, I was scheduling, getting everything done. Now this job is also year round, but it's different. It's
Mm-hmm.
making sure that teams and players' eligibility are they're in line. If there's situations that arise, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle situations that may occur between other teams or in a league? And so I have hit it. I mean, these guys have been helping me good. I've gotten the checklist. I've been, we've already had a conference call with the board, going over everything, what we need to do. So it's the busy time right now. August is to make sure we get that registration going with USA Hockey and get that up and running, making it as easy as possible for teams. And again, I think Mo and those guys with USA Hockey has done a great job putting that together, and we're going to see how it works.
Well, John, we're about 7 months away from Dallas, so you got plenty of time for that. But I know that it sounds like you're hitting the ground running, and gosh, before you know it, a month from now, the puck's going to be dropping, and some of the schools starting play right after Labor Day. Hey, again, thanks for taking time out tonight of your busy schedule. It's always fun talking ACHA hockey. I'd love to have you on the show again after maybe towards the break time around the first of the year, and we'll see how things are going getting ready for Dallas in 2020.
I would love to, Lou. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate the support you give the ACHA, and it's always a pleasure, to visit with you guys. So, yeah, let me know. I'd be glad to come back on.
All right. Thanks, John. Again, congratulations, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Lou. You guys do the same. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. John Eckles, the new Division II commissioner of the ACHA, and it's always fun to talk with them. It's great insight because it's just like the coaches. It's not just a seasonal thing anymore, where you might even be able to make it like an 8 or 9 month a year process. It's 12 months now, and as he mentioned, getting the eligibility set with all the teams, bouncing ideas off of each other, getting all the necessary paperwork in, and because some of these schools, they kick off, they drop the puck, if you will, right after Labor Day. They start a little bit earlier than some of the other organizations do, like the NHL and, the minor leagues. The ACHA, they start usually the weekend after Labor Day, and they space it out a little bit. They take their month off at Christmas time, and then they go right through to March. So they got to get the ball running, and John's going to be a good guy for Division II. I got a feeling, he's got some good people under him, and he's working with some great support. Mo Strummel and Craig Barnett and everybody else at all the levels, D2 and D3. I've said this before, and I'll say it again with the ACHA. I started out with them with doing the play-by-play with Aquinas. This will be my fifth, sixth year. God, it's all running together. It's crazy. And I was given the opportunity to work on the Division III National Tournament when it was in Grand Rapids before they all came to the same location in 2017. And, what I like about it is how everybody comes together and they put on a great show. Yeah, there's a couple of bumps here and there, but, there's a great support staff there at all the levels. And it has grown in the last 5 years, leaps and bounds. And as he mentioned, you've got, when it comes into Dallas at the end of the year, March 19th through the 29th, which it'll be next year, you've got 5 divisions with their national tournament. And they're 4 to 5 days long, so they kind of overlap a little bit, which is even better because, I was fortunate enough to be down there last year and hopefully next year as well, to start out watching the D1 games and the D2 games and then the D3 games as well. So we've got ourselves, let's see, we're going to try see if we can't get back here on the phone line here. We got a call on our guest line, and we'll continue that thought here if I can hook up the old guest line here and see what we can do here. Go ahead. We got a call from the 770. Come on, you're on the air with the captain. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Lou?
Yes.
Hey, this is Todd Corder. How you been?
Todd, I'm fantastic, man. Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Thank you. I thought I'd just surprise you and wish you on your marriage coming up.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's all set in place, Todd. All we got to do now is walk that aisle, as Ric Flair would say, coming up on March 20 or on August 24th. Gosh, it's only a little over
correct.
2 weeks.
Well, it'll be here before you know it. Congratulations to you. I wish you nothing but the best.
Well, thank you. Hey, while I got you on the horn, I might as well ask you a couple of questions. Are you happy with Shane Green down there in Atlanta?
You know what? I mean, I think it's going to help the Braves, but Shane Green, when you see him pitch against the teams that have good lineups, he's not as successful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this season he's been very successful, but if you take a look at his prior stats till this year, he was a good reliever, but he wasn't great. This season he's been outstanding.
He's had a career year with Detroit, and I know it's just I honestly think that was just a blip what happened this weekend. I think he's going to be a huge pickup for you guys down in Atlanta. Hey,
we're going to find out, that's for sure. I mean, they've got big series coming up with the Mets. And they're one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. I think they have the best record since the All-Star break.
Todd, who would have thought the Mets would have came back with coming on fire like that, eh?
That starting rotation, Lou, is very good, and I think they'll get one of the wild card spots. And they may make a run at the division before it's over. We'll see if they can continue their streak here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I'm gonna switch gears on you, Todd. I gotta pick your brain. I did my preview of the NFC South a few weeks back, and I've got Atlanta winning the division. I was teetering with them and New Orleans. Either way, I think they're both getting in the playoffs. But is this going to be Atlanta's year? They've got the weapons, I believe, on offense, and I think their defense is going to be the telltale sign whether they're going to make it to that next level or not. What do you think?
It's their health on their defense, really. I mean, when you look at the Falcons, it's the health. It's the health of Jones. It's the health of Neal. I mean, this is really critical for the Falcons to stay healthy on defense. Last year, poor Dan Quinn, he just didn't have a chance defensively. And, Dan Quinn has actually taken all his chips, and he's bet on himself this year because a lot of folks around here think if the Falcons don't get in the playoffs, that they'll let him go. And I think it's a big mistake. Even if they do get to the playoffs and win a game, it still might not be enough here. And I think that would be a big mistake. Now he is the defensive coordinator. So, I mean, can Vic Beasley come back from his season of 2016? I mean, Grady Jarrett's going to do a good job. He just got signed a big contract. He'll clog the middle of defensive tackle. But Vic Beasley has to have a big season at defensive end. Jones has to stay healthy. Ricardo Allen, to me, is the quarterback of the defense at free safety. He's just as big as loss as Keanu Neal was last year, even though Neal is the big hit specialist. So at strong safety. So to me, it's the health of the defense. They've already lost Neal's backup, J.J. Wilcox, for the season due to an injury. So Atlanta's got to stay healthy. They have decent depth with Adrian Claiborne. Deidre Sinnett is a pretty good ball player too to back up that defensive tackle. But this is a team that once again has got to stay healthy, got to have the things bounce their way. If I may shift for a minute on offense,
Absolutely.
You look at their offensive line. McGarry's going to be out for another probably 6 weeks ago. He had the rookie had a heart procedure. Caleb McGarry at right tackle, and he's projected to start potentially at right tackle. We shall see. He'll start along right next to Chris Lindstrom, the other rookie, at right guard. So this is a young offensive line, and another key for Atlanta, if I may say, is Devontae Smith. he's coming back from injury. So, again, the health is a major concern when it comes to the Falcons for me.
Well, Todd, I think it's an exciting time. I think being a football fan in your neck of the woods, Georgia's going to be right up there. I mean, knocking on the door for a playoff berth, in the college football playoff. I think they got destiny in their own hands, obviously, and with your Falcons, man, and the Braves, I'll tell you, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe Vince Carter can light a fire under your Hawks to get into the playoffs.
Well, I mean, if they do get in, it would be an 8 seed. They're a pretty young team. Vince Carter's last season at 42. He did sign a 1-year contract. He's good for the kids, and he played well off the bench last year. He scored about 8 points a game in about 18 minutes at 41 years old. I think that's just phenomenal.
Oh, I think it's awesome. It's like, I don't know who I heard say it on radio. Maybe it was Dan Patrick. We want to keep him down there long enough so he could be the oldest man to dunk in a basketball game in NBA history.
Well, if he does it this year, I believe he will be.
That's awesome.
And he's going to do it.
Oh,
so
heck yeah.
It's just a matter of when.
Oh, I know it. Wow. I just had John Eckles on, the new commissioner of D2 for the ACHA, and I tell you, he's got my blood pumping, man. Hockey season's going to be here before you know it. Not just, at the ACHA level, but the NCAA or the NHL level. Man, it's our favorite time of the year is coming when all 4 sports are going to intertwine,
That's awesome. I mean, it's 90 degrees down here every day, so sometimes hockey is not on my mind.
I bet.
But yes, it is coming along, and it'll be very exciting. When we did that tournament together last year, I can't wait to see Sioux College again. My goodness, they're going to move up another level. They'll be D2, correct?
Yep, they're moving to D2. There's a handful of teams moving up to D1 with Aquinas, and I think there's like 10 schools moving up to D1. There's a handful moving to D2. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and the teams there's still going to be quite a few in D3, and I think all the major players are still there, so it's going to be fun to watch that this year. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, as you know, I do the Georgia Tech games here, and they should have a pretty good season this year. They've got most of their squad coming back. They should be pretty competitive. They've got Central Florida in an early part of the going, and as you know, Central Florida was in Dallas last year when we broadcasted the Nationals. So that's going to be an early season test for Georgia Tech.
Oh, Georgia Tech's teams are always good. You know that by watching them, and I think they're going to be a little salty after not making it to Nationals because I think they feel they had a good shot to get through regionals. But, Todd, as you well know, it's just like the Nationals in pool play. You have one bad 10-minute stretch, and it could cost you, the season, really, once you get into the playoffs.
Well, speaking of a bad stretch last year, that Kansas game when they were up 2-0 and controlled the entire game and blew it to not make the Final Four in D3, that was just incredible.
Well, you're right.
I mean, they were up 2-0 with what 5 minutes to play, 8 minutes to play, and I did the game and they lost 3-2. So you're right, a huge stretch and you're done.
Well, I gotta tell everybody. I got to invite everybody to go to the ACHA Championships from 2019 on YouTube and look up that Kansas game against Fairfield and listen and watch the third period because that's one of the most exciting calls I've heard in a long time, and Todd was behind the mic of that, and it was, I could hear the cheering because the game that I did was over. And I was walking outside to talk to somebody on the phone, and they said, "Hey, did you see this? What's going on in that other game?" Because I thought it was over. But check that out on YouTube and listen to Todd's call because I'll tell you what, Todd, that you should be commended for that. That was exciting.
Well, thank you, Lou. I really appreciate it. It was exciting. My color commentator was silent when they scored. I thought he was going to say something, and his mouth was about 3 feet wide. He couldn't believe it. And the thing is, it's like you said, in any 5-8 minute stretch, you turn the puck over, you get a key penalty, you can lose very easily because the competition is so I want to say so even.
Oh, it is. You're right. And, it was, we had the fortunate at the D3 level and even at D2 last year, a lot of the regions or a lot of the pools came down to the last day, but at D3, there was not one pool decided until the final day. And that we were fortunate of that because, normally that's not the case. Usually you get at least 2 or 3 of them settled before, judgment day, if you will, which is day 3. So,
well, one of the teams that I was thrilled to see there was Air Force. Anytime you get an academy team there, it just seems, I don't know, there just seems to be an extra vibe. And Air Force, they weren't as talented as the other teams, but they were gritty, and they fell short. But they really did play some good hockey in spurts there.
Well, yeah, and they're an example of 2 years ago, Todd, when they made it to Columbus. They had one bad period, and it cost them because I think they ended up 2-1 in pool play that year, and they lost to Central Michigan, and it was just one bad period. So, anyways,
wow, it just shows you anything can happen. I mean, the talent is so similar now. I just think the competition is better than ever. The players are bigger, stronger, and faster, and the ACHA is getting better every year.
Oh, without a doubt. So, are you going to be back behind the mic for high school football this fall down there?
Well, I don't know. The radio station I was working for, it was sold. So I'm in the process of trying to get involved to do some high school football. We shall see. I'm also in the process of trying to do some potentially some. I can't go into it over the air, but I'm in a process of potentially doing some other hockey.
Well, that's great.
So this year too. So we shall see. Well, besides Georgia Tech.
Well, sounds like you've got some irons in the fire, Todd. And hey, tell everybody about your show that you guys do, and on Wednesday nights because it's a very exciting listen.
Well, thank you, Lou. And I've got a huge guest on. I hope you're sitting down. I've got Tim Brando calling in tomorrow at 8:05 Eastern. That is going to be a tremendous interview. So I am thrilled to have that at 1-347-205-9631. You can go blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports to listen to it. If you can't catch it live, you can always catch it on tape delay or by just checking it out. So,
all right.
Were you previewing the AFC North tonight by chance?
That's what I'm going with. If you got a few more minutes, let's talk about it.
I've got a few, sure.
Right. Well, it's funny with all this the love that the Cleveland Browns are getting, and that's what I can't figure out is I until Pittsburgh to me in that division, I think they're the tops until somebody knocks them off. I love Baker Mayfield. I like what he's done in the first year, but they still have some question marks, a lot of question marks. And I don't know if he and Odell Beckham are going to lead them to the promised land or not. What do you see out of the AFC North, in your opinion?
I see it a lot like you, actually. I think Pittsburgh's the team to beat. They got rid of Brown and Bell, got rid of all the drama, and now it's up to Big Ben to deliver and not only win the division, but to go deep in the playoffs. He just signed they just signed a 37-year-old veteran here through 2021. So, they're gonna have to step it up. Ashley Connor did a great job last year, running the football. So I don't really think they lost a whole lot from the running back
I don't either.
standpoint. He had almost 1,000 yards. So you'll have Juju Smith-Schuster, almost 1,500 yards last year. They got Vance McDonald. They picked up that kid from Jacksonville in the offseason, Dante Moncrief?
They did. Yes, they did.
So he's a good football player. And then, of course, they grafted the kid out of Toledo, Deontay Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
So he's supposedly a stretch the field type player. Now on defense, they got our guy from Michigan. So Devin Bush. So I think Pittsburgh's going to be really good. I think all the hype from Cleveland. We'll see how they handle it. To me, for the Browns, what kind of start will they get off to?
Right.
Because if they get off to a 2-3-0 start, everything's rosy. But if they go 0-2, how are they going to handle the adversity?
Well, Todd, one of the things that I've been doing when I do these previews, I look at the schedules. And that's a great point you brought up with Cleveland. I look at their schedule. They've got 3 road games out of their first 5. And actually, they start out at home with Tennessee, but then they go to the Jets, and the Jets are coming. I think they're maybe another team a year out, but they're coming. Then they have the Rams at home. Then they go to Baltimore and then San Francisco. And a home game against Seattle. Then they're at New England and Denver. The first part of their schedule is brutal. And,
it is.
And I can see them, that's 8 games. That you're looking at 3-5 with that start of the schedule. And then you look at Pittsburgh's. I brought their schedule up, and you talk about, to me, Pittsburgh's got a very nice schedule. They start out with New England up there. I get that. But if they can make it through the first 3 games, check this out. They're home to Cincinnati, home to Baltimore, then they're at the Chargers, but after that they get a bye week. Then they're home to Miami, Indy, and the Rams, and then they're at Cleveland and at Cincinnati. Yeah, those are road games, but it's not like they're traveling out to the West Coast. I love that stretch that Pittsburgh has, where they could, if they can get, say, 2 out of the first 3, you could see them going 7-2 in their first 9.
It's very possible. I tell you what, nobody's talking about Baltimore, and we'll see how Lamar Jackson does in his second year. Let's see if he progresses throwing the football. He sure can run it, that's for sure. And you were talking about schedules. I mean, the first 2 games for Baltimore, they should get off to a 2-0 start playing Miami and Arizona.
Yes.
Those are very winnable games. Of course, the NFL, the talent's all similar. You can totally never tell. Game 3's at Kansas City. Then they get they get Cleveland at home, and then they go to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get Cincinnati. So by mid-October, we'll know the direction of Baltimore pretty much. And they always start off sort of slow, but in the second half, they always play much better. Harbaugh's one heck of a coach.
Well, and the thing that as crazy as it sounds with Baltimore, Todd, is Lamar Jackson, I think he's got a shot, but their wideouts don't scare me. And that's where I think, they've got Willie Snead, Michael Crabtree. Yeah, they've shown flashes. What I do like the Mark Ingram pickup. That'll help the running game a little bit. But their wideouts don't scare me. And that's where I think that Cleveland and Pittsburgh have a little bit of an edge. Obviously Pittsburgh, and I always say this with Pittsburgh, is Ben Roethlisberger throws for the quietest 5,000 yards every year. And he did it last year because, it just seems like you don't hear about it enough. And all of a sudden, boom, he's got 5,000 yards. I don't see that offensive firepower out of Baltimore. I just don't.
I don't neither. And what happens if ever something happens to Lamar Jackson? Joe Flacco's not there now, and the backup is Robert Griffin III.
You talk about kindling for legs, man. He'd be going with Trace McSorley.
If he gets hurt, have a nice day. They're in last place.
Without a doubt.
We never did talk about the Bengals at all, and it's interesting because their star wideout Green is he's injured. He's going to miss some significant time. A.J. Green, he suffered an injury in the first day of camp.
He sure did.
I think he injured his foot, if I'm not mistaken.
It was an ankle ligament damage. Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks they figure he's going to be off. And I'll tell you, there's a guy that is, you talk about snake bit. It seems like whenever he gets going, something happens. Oh, I totally agree. I love Joe Mixon as a running back. He had like almost 1,500 yards of total offense, just under 1,200 yards rushing. I think they're going to have to rely on him. But Andy Dalton, it always seems like he's one step away from getting replaced. But they got a new coach there too, Todd, is, finally, after all these years, I can't remember his name from last year.
LaFleur.
No,
Zach Taylor, excuse me.
Zach Taylor's the head coach. That's right. And, Marvin Lewis finally got let go after it seems like 30 years there.
Right, he was there forever. Yeah, the longest tenured coach, I think in Bengals history, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct. So, It could be, that's what I'm looking at with Andy Dalton, to see how he reacts with a whole new regime. Are they going to open it up? But you hit the nail on the head. Losing A.J. Green's going to be tough. They do get Tyler Eifert back, who is one of his weapons. He was hurt last year. But, and they signed Tyler Boyd, who had 1,000 yards receiving. But I still think it's Pittsburgh's division to be had.
And John Ross will have to step it up, being A.J. Green's backup. He is capable. I do like Cincinnati's talent, especially Bernard at running back. He's pretty good. Like you already mentioned, Mixon, this is a team that has a lot of talent. If they could ever stay healthy, they might make noise in the division.
Yeah, but I agree. They're going to have all the cards are going to have to fall in their favor for them to make some noise in that. My prediction is going to be Pittsburgh is going to be 11-5 or 10-6. Cleveland is going to be right about where they were last year, 8-8. And I'm just not a believer in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, he got destroyed in the playoff, again, and he's got to prove it to me, that he can do it for a full season. I see them as a middle of the road team as well. I just think Pittsburgh's going to win that one. I think 11-5, and they're going to have the benefit of playing against a couple of weaker teams. But I'll tell you, those are going to be some great games with them in Cleveland, aren't they?
Cincinnati and Cleveland will be a good game. It always is a good rivalry game. And I'm on the Bengals, man. I'm running behind Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Their first pick, their first pick there for them in the first round. That's a hoss right there. Now, I mean.
Sure is.
You just look at the Browns on paper and you think, yeah, they can do it. They've got Beckham and Landry, and like you said, I mean, this is a team that is loaded talent-wise. And, of course, we saw Baker Mayfield. Did you see him at the Indians game this week? And he chugged that beer down?
I love it. I think that's great. And think about this, too. They do have the talent. You can't deny it. But look at their running back situation. They got Nick Chubb, Duke Johnson, and then Kareem Hunt after 8 games when his suspension's over. Baker Mayfield's going to have to be like a point guard trying to distribute the ball to these guys because they're all going to want it.
They're loaded. You're right. They're loaded.
So maybe they are going to but it's like I'm like the Missouri State. Show me. Show me you can do it.
Exactly. I got Cleveland finishing second due to the all. I think the key is the whole start of the season for them, and I mean, you've got to start off well.
I agree. One last thing for you, Todd. Our other preview we're doing tonight is the Big 12.
Oh, wow.
And I'm saving the SEC for last because the last is best. Let's face it. They're the best conference in all of college football. So
no doubt.
That's a couple weeks down the road. I've got Oklahoma, obviously. They're the class. And, I think Jalen Hurts is going to prove. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder, something to prove transferring to Oklahoma, and I think Lincoln Riley's going to benefit from it. But I'll tell you, the team that I love out of the Big 12, they're not going to go to the playoff by any stretch. I love Iowa State. I think Mark Campbell's doing a whale of a job there, and they could come up and bite somebody in the rear end and finish in the top 3. If not, maybe get to the Big 12 championship game in December. I love that team. Obviously, you got Texas, and you got Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. But give me your 2 cents real quick on what you think about the Big 12, and are any of those teams possibly going to go to the playoff?
Well, I mean, Oklahoma's the favorite. I can't count out Texas, though. I mean, I liked Tim Tebow Jr., quarterback last year. He really showed me something there against Georgia. I call him Tim Tebow Jr. because he reminds me of Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, what's his name? Ellinger?
Yes, that's what it is.
What a heck of it. I mean, this kid can run with a football, and if Texas's offensive line can show me, like they did last year when they dominated Georgia's defensive line in the Sugar Bowl and ran the football, if they're able to run the football, control the clock, and keep their defense off the field, Texas is going to be dangerous.
Oh, they're definitely going to be dangerous. And I don't like it. I've always been I don't know. It always bothers me when I hear announcers and the talking heads of the major networks say, well, it's always better when certain schools are here and certain schools are good, but boy, when that Oklahoma-Texas Red River rivalry is big, man, it's awesome to watch. And I think you're probably right, but I still like Iowa State to come up and be a spoiler, if you will. But until Oklahoma gets knocked off, I'm going with them as the champs of the Big 12.
I am too. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm going to pick Texas second, and then I'm going to go Iowa State third. I like the quarterback Brock Purdy at Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. A team that I never thought I'd say this, but I wonder what Les Miles is going to do at Kansas,
Boy,
former LSU coach, because they have no way to go but up.
No, that's right. And I was looking at the over-unders of the Big 12, and their Kansas's over-under is 5, but actually that's 3.5, I should say. But the second worst over-under this year. You talk about how the mighty have fallen quickly. West Virginia, their over-under is down to 5. They won 10 games last year. Now I know they had Will Grier in at quarterback, and they've lost a ton, but wow. I never would have thought that West Virginia would be rated the second worst team in the Big 12.
Well, I tell you what, when you mentioned Iowa State, the first thing that came up to my head was defense. I mean, that Jaquan Bailey, that defensive end for Iowa State, they may have the best defense in the conference, and Bailey would be a huge reason for that. I mean, he's totaled 18.5 sacks. He's tied for the school record over 3 seasons. If he has a gigantic year and that defensive line does, and they end up playing the best defense, maybe they steal the Big 12.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch, and you know what? It starts in about 3.5 weeks. And
the first game is Miami and Florida on August 24th.
Yeah, I told I told my bride-to-be that we might have to put a TV in the reception hall at the golf course we're going to have our reception at and put that game on. And she said, "You put that TV in there, it's getting thrown out the window." So I think I'll DVR that one. How's that sound?
You know what? Let me see. I've been married 28 years. That would be a wise move.
All right. Todd, hey, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you calling. You've got carte blanche anytime on the show, man.
Well, I appreciate it, and you vice versa on for mine tomorrow night. You know you do.
All right. Listen
in to Tim Brando, the interview. I'm a little nervous for tomorrow night already.
You're going to do great. Just remember to tell him, got to give the Big Ten a little bit of love.
Well, he's a Southeastern Conference
Oh,
guy.
he is.
If you ever listen to him do the games, he's really fair. I love his ideas for college football. We're going to ask a ton of questions tomorrow. It's all going to be regarding college football. And, during the playoffs, should they have 8 teams? What are his ideas for scheduling in the future, and et cetera? All
right. Well, good luck with that, Todd. And, again, thanks for calling in tonight. And enjoy the rest of your summer. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Hey, you too. And once again, congratulations. And I wish you guys nothing but happiness.
All right. Thanks, Todd. Todd Corder, one of our ACHA hockey voices from the national tournament. And again, I want to invite everybody to take a listen to that game he did. It's Kansas against for God's sakes, against Fairfield last year in the ACHA Division III pool play. The game he was talking about, they were up 2-0 with under 5 minutes to go, and Fairfield scored 3 goals, 2 in the last minute. And the excitement in Todd's voice, it definitely was fun to listen to. He did a whale of a job. So we want to thank Todd Corder for joining us here tonight on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So it was great with Todd coming on. We kind of went into our Big 12 and our AFC North previews as we promised here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Todd called on our guest line. If you want to come in and you have any thoughts on who you think might win the Big 12 championship or the AFC North, all you got to do is call 224-423-0717. That's the hotline to get on the program with us. We're going to be on for about another 40 minutes tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, here exclusively on 12ouncesportsradio.com and simulcast on 12-ounce Sports TV. And we want to thank everybody that's taken the time to watch and to listen to the show. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up here shortly, very soon here on the network. So my advice to you is to stick close to 12ouncesportsradio.com. And we've got, with football season coming up, things are going to really kick into high gear here. And we can't wait to, again, be a part of that here with the program here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Hey, a reminder, as we always remind you here on the show every week, you know, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he's loaded with money. And we here at 12-Ounce Sports Radio are loaded with sports takes. And what we both want you to know is that you can do your Amazon shopping through us here at 12-Ounce Sports Radio. How may you ask? Well, it's real simple. All you got to do is click their banner on our website, 12ouncesportsradio.com, and it'll take you right through to Amazon. I know there's a lot of Amazon Prime users, shoppers, if you will, and it's very simple to use. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't cost you anything extra, but we benefit from it. We get a few pennies from it, and it helps us keep the lights on, helps us be able to get to where we are, you know, growing like we are, and getting the, we just getting to be able to have our own guests that we want. We're not corporate owned, and we're going to stay that way. And by helping us out to do that, shop through Amazon, but go on through us first at 12ouncesportsradio.com. We can have whoever we want on. We can talk about whatever we want. And, you know, it's all through doing stuff like this. So next time that you're going to be shopping through Amazon, and I know you do, there's obviously thousands, if not millions of people that use it on a monthly basis or whatever, go on 12ouncesportsradio.com, click the Amazon link, and then it'll take you right to their website, and you'll be able to shop with them and get that special gift that you want for that special someone. Oh, and another thing I want to remind you that you can also get event tickets on our website. Just refer to 12ouncesportsradio.com again and click event tickets on the website menu. And we talked about my Tigers in the last hour of the show, or just recently. You can get MLB tickets for as cheap as $5, and I'm sure you can get Tiger tickets when somebody good comes to Detroit. But I know there's going to be some college games that are going to be up in the fall. We talked about it last week with Michigan State. You know, God bless them. I'm not ripping on them. I'm telling you, I'm not ripping on them. But their schedule right now, from what I heard last week, the ticket sales, they're going to be affordable. Now, this is a great way to go to these games. You know, we've talked about this 100 times, a problem with Major League Baseball. And I heard a personality here in the Lansing, Michigan area, one of the television sports guys, and he concurred. It's hard to justify going to a major league game like the Tigers or going to a college football game, because they're getting just as expensive, if not more, than some of the pro games. It's hard to justify spending hundreds of dollars to take your family for a minor league talent. So this is a great way to take your kids to a game, or your family, to go to event tickets on our website, especially for Major League Baseball right now. The weather's great. You can go to a night game. Chances are, if you like the Tigers, if they've got a Saturday game, they've got fireworks afterwards. You know, it's great entertainment, and it's not going to break your wallet. So, again, to go to 12ouncesportsradio.com, click event tickets on the website menu, and you can get MLB tickets for as cheap as $5. Well, that was a great surprise having Todd Quarter call us, a fountain of information, helping us break down, the NFC North, or I'm sorry, the AFC North. Kind of got their pulse down what's going on in Atlanta. As we talked about, the Braves got one of the trades right at the deadline last Wednesday, getting Shane Green, as he's going to probably be one of their closers. They picked up a couple of closers. I think they did pretty good with their trade deadline. But if you ask me, I believe that the team that made the biggest splash and I think got the best investment right now is the Houston Astros. As they got Zach Greinke right at the deadline, and I just think that it's obviously going to bolster their lineup. They got Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, Zach Greinke, and they also got Aaron Sanchez from Toronto. If they can get Sanchez back on track, and it sounds like they might be, if any team can do it, it's going to be the Houston Astros. Watch out for that pitching lineup come playoff time. It's going to come down to them and the Yankees, obviously, the top two teams. Minnesota and Cleveland, they'll be right there. And then other wild card, it's up in the air. I think Boston's playing themselves out of it right now. They're losing to Kansas City 6-1 at home in the top of the eighth. They lost 8 in a row. They won last night, but they're getting thumped on tonight. I just think they're running out of gas. They made their run last year. Could it be Oakland and Cleveland for those last two, for the 2 wild card spots? Who knows? But is it going to be Tampa Bay? They're going to try to make a run again. They've been on a roll. But I love what Houston did. So they got 2 quality starters, in my opinion. And Arizona, they got Arizona to pay $22 million of what's left of the contract of Zach Greinke. So it's look for Houston. I think they made the biggest splash in Major League Baseball at the trade deadline. Hey, we've got a cornucopia, as we mentioned, here at on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We got just about a half hour left of the show. Anything goes tonight, as usually it always does. But anything goes. And the reason I say that is we had Jay Corley on last week, one of the top professional cornhole players in the American Cornhole League. They got their world championships in Prussia, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, I believe, starting tomorrow. And they're going to be on the 4-Letter Network the next 5 days. And Jay was kind enough to agree. He's going to come on next week on the show and talk about how everything went over there. They're going to be on ESPN Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Check out their website. It's iPlayCornhole.com. And they got some big prize money. Who would have thought? And again, when I talked to Jay, it was a great interview with Jay Corley. I highly recommend, look up the show, our show, Captain Lou Extravaganza, on iTunes through 12-Ounce Sports Radio. Most of our shows are on there, and we got some great interviews. But that interview last week was very enlightening. It's an up-and-coming sport, and they're going to be playing for almost $250,000 in total prizes next week. Or this week, I should say, starting tomorrow. And it's not just a backyard game anymore. It's just another example of some great ideas and some motivation, and they're turning that sport into something that is, is thriving. And it's going to do nothing but grow. So, it's going to be, I'm going to keep an eye on it this week. I want to see how well Jay does, because, when you get somebody on the show, you kind of want to see how, if they can, what they can do on there. And it looks like that, we'll see what he's ranked, I think, number 3 in the doubles in the world. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But Jay was kind enough to agree. He's going to come on the show next week, So hopefully he can come on with some good news, and maybe his pockets will be a little heavier, winning some prize money, and winning, maybe getting some hardware too in the process. So, we'll keep an eye on that. Hey, I have a question before we get back into the NFL previews with our, we're going to just kind of do a thumbnail sketch again on who to expect in the, in the key positions for each of the four teams. Detroit's up 5-1. 2 outs, I believe, in the bottom of the fifth. Now, does it have to go 5 innings? I believe the reason I say that is they can call the game and Detroit will get a win. So I'm just going to check that out and make sure it is in the 5th inning. It is. Detroit got 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th before the rain hit. So that's a game. All they had to do is be ahead of them through 4.5 innings, and Detroit's ahead 5-1. I'll take any way that they can get, that they can get a win. I gotta look up this. I gotta look up the scores. Or I'm sorry, we talked about this a little bit in the last hour about how bad Detroit is. I want to tell you. Here's an idea of just how bad it is for the Tigers. Now, I mentioned that they're on pace to break the world's record. Oh, yeah, I guess it would be the world's record. Major League Baseball's worst home winning percentage. Detroit is 32-77. Right now, I'd say they're on pace to go 45-117, which would not be the worst record. They lost 120 back in 2003, so we got to keep that in mind. Detroit is 13-38 at home. Baltimore is the next worst at 17-39. 13-38. How bad is that? That is horrible. Absolutely horrible. And they're like, and the sad part about it is, they're only 5.5 games behind Kansas City. So that tells you that the Royals aren't much better. But at least they've won 10 more games at home. Detroit's got a better record on the road. This is all bad, 32-77. So come on, call the game. Call the game so Detroit can get a win. I don't want them to break that record. I want Detroit to look respectable. I do like the catcher they brought up, Jake Rogers. He had a home run in the game this afternoon, their day-night doubleheader. I think he's going to be good. It's a start. They say the Tigers have the sixth best farm system in Major League Baseball. I certainly hope so, because it's going to be a couple more lean years for the Tigers. Ron Gardenhire, I hope he's the right guy for the job. We'll see. But let's take a quick look at the standings right now in the American League. The Yankees, they're doing it on smoke and mirrors. All their guns getting hurt again. 73-39. Right now, they are a half a game ahead of the Houston Astros for the best record in all of Major League Baseball. They've won 6 in a row despite a pitching staff that does not scare anybody. They're going to give up a ton of runs, and this is where I think they could run into trouble against the likes of the Houston Astros. Tampa right now playing some good ball. They lost last night, but they've 8-2 in the last 10, so they're 9 games out at 65-49. Minnesota leading the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland's come on like gangbusters. They're maintaining the first wild card position right now. They're 4 games behind the Twins. Twins 70-42. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Houston, as I mentioned, 73-40. They've got a 9-game lead on the Oakland A's, who are kind of in the mix for that second wild card or first wild card. So they're right now in the hunt as well. National League, the Braves are 6 games ahead of the Nationals and the Phillies at 66-48. The Mets, as we mentioned, they're above 500, won 9 out of their last 10. They're 8.5 back. In the Central, the Cubs are 2.5 up on the Cardinals. The Cardinals have lost 3 in a row. The Brewers are 4 games out. The Brewers got thumped on this weekend by the Cubs. They won last night to kind of get off the schneid a little bit. the Reds are out of it. In the West, the Dodgers 75-40. They're only 18 games up on Arizona and San Francisco. They're kind of playing themselves out of the wild card position. San Francisco, they're still mathematically in it, but let's look at the wild card standings. This is where it gets fun, I guess, if you really want to think about it. Right now, Cleveland holds the top spot in the American League wild card race. Tampa is 2 games behind them. Then you've got Oakland a half game behind Tampa. Those are the 3 teams right now to look for. Boston and Texas kind of hanging on for dear life. Boston just kind of 2-8 in their last 10. It's going to be kind of hard for them right now. In the National League, Washington and Philadelphia are tied for the top wild card spot. Check this out. Even Cincinnati, I'll give them the benefit of a doubt, but St. Louis is a half game out. The Brewers are 2 games out. Then the Mets, 2.5. The Diamondbacks, 3.5. San Francisco, 3.5. And the Reds are 5.5 out. Philly and Washington are 6 games above 500. And then again, it gets, like I said, St. Louis only a half game out of the wild card. It's going to come down to the last week in the National League for that wild card. The Mets, as Todd Quarter mentioned, he called us earlier in the show, they've got a chance. I got to give them credit. You know me and the New York teams, I don't like to give them credit, but I give them credit when credit is due, when they deserve it. And by God, the Mets deserve it right now. 9-1 in their last 10. They're like 13 out of the last 14 or something crazy like that. But they're ready. They're making their move. But losing Robinson Cano is going to hurt. But their pitching staff is coming around. And you got to somewhat take them serious now. They're only 2.5 games out of the wild card and 8.5 out of the division lead. You never know. It's crazy. Well, we're cruising along here the last half hour of the show here tonight. It's been fun, as it always is, here on 12 Ounce Sports Radio and 12 Ounce Sports TV. It'll be archived. You'll be able to listen to encore performance on the radio side probably tomorrow, or check it out. It will be available in the next day or two on iTunes and SoundCloud. Just check out 12 Ounce Sports Radio and look up the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Great conversations tonight. John Eckles and Todd Quarter. John Eckles, of course, is the new commissioner of the ACHA at the Division II level. And it's going to be an exciting year for the ACHA again. And it sounds like things are going really well with them. And it all comes down to Dallas next year again for the national tournament. So very excited to be able to work with John and the rest of the ACHA at the D2 level, all the divisions. One of the things on our shows we've talked about here is we really go ACHA heavy, especially after Christmas. We try to get as many of the coaches on as we can. We're going to do that again this year. Some great insight with the coaches and the players and the executives around the league and some of the other broadcasters. It is the official non-varsity hockey association here in this country and solely backed by USA Hockey as well. And so you got about 460 teams, 5 divisions, men and women, and it is very competitive. And so I'm looking forward to working with them again this year. Their season starts off next month. September already. So, and also Todd Quarter, want to thank Todd for calling in. He called in on our guest line 224-423-0717. You want to call in and chime in and talk about whatever you'd like here in the next about 19 minutes? Feel free to give us a jingle. Well, let's get back to the AFC North real quick. Todd brought it up. These are rivalry games, but you look on paper with Cleveland. Cleveland, I I feel your pain, Cleveland. It's been very, very frustrating to be a Cleveland Browns fan. Not any more frustrating to be a Detroit Lions fan, but I will say this. We've had some heartbreak being a Lions fan. But one thing that we have not experienced is, our franchise didn't move. Now, Cleveland's had the drive go against them, the fumble back in the mid-'80s, where it looked like Cleveland might be making a couple of trips to the Super Bowl. And that may have changed the whole course of history right there if the Browns would have won it all. How could have Art Modell moved him to Baltimore after that? Ifs and buts are candy and nuts. So I always say they've had the drive, they've had the fumble, and they've had the move. Well, they got the Browns back. They've made one playoff appearance, but they were 500, I believe, when they got in. Now, you look at them on paper. And if you look at them on paper, how can you not be excited about Cleveland? Their defense is going to be stacked. I get it. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he played in 14 games, threw for about 3,800 yards, 3,725 to be exact. He's got Nick Chubb. He's got Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. How can you forget about him? And, you got Antonio Callaway. And for running backs, as mentioned, Nick Chubb. You got Duke Johnson Jr. And in 8 weeks, you're going to have Kareem Hunt. Man, on paper, it looks like a 12-win team. But you got a new coach in Freddie Kitchens who worked with Baker Mayfield. I get it. But this is the Cleveland Browns. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But I think Pittsburgh's just a little bit better. And they've been there. Now, I'm not a Ben Roethlisberger fan personally. I think he's kind of he walks around like, everybody owes him the world. But on the field, his numbers prove it. It's like I said to Todd. He is the most, you look at his stats, and all of a sudden he's got 5,000 yards passing again. And, they've got some talent on that team. Even though they don't, one of the things that I like about Pittsburgh is the headaches are gone. Well, they still have Ben Roethlisberger, who can be, he is a diva. Let's face it. But he wins. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's got 2 rings. And they've got an offensive line. But check this out. They got James Conner, who will get 1,000 yards this year if he stays healthy. He played in 13 games and had a tick under 1,000. I think he had 973. But he also had 55 catches. They targeted him 71 times, and he had 497 through the air. So you're looking at probably another 14 to 1,500 yard effort this year, total yards for James Conner. You got Juju Smith-Schuster. You got Vance McDonald. You got Dante Moncrief, Ryan Switzer, James Washington, you name it. They've got some studs there too. Love Vance McDonald. And we talked about the schedule. Pittsburgh's got a shot, really. I know they open up against New England. But New England's always ripe to be had at the beginning. And it seems like towards the end of the year, they just go on a roll and they're unbeatable. Detroit's proof of the pudding with that. So Pittsburgh's getting New England at the right time. First game of the year. There's a chance. But I'm telling you, they have that stretch, the whole month of October, they're home. And I know they played 5 of the last 7 on the road, but those are winnable road games. Not all of them are difficult. But I see Pittsburgh with that cast of characters with an 11-5 team. And what is Baker going to do in year 2? Our team's going to adjust to him. And, God bless Cleveland if he goes down, because they've got Drew Stanton as their backup, or Garrett Gilbert. And they're not going to do it. But Baker Mayfield last year, he throw for 3,700 yards. I get it. And Nick Chubb, I think, is going to be their go-to guy, with the running game. And Duke Johnson, he caused some waves. He wanted out. He's not happy. What is he going to do when Kareem Hunt gets off suspension? They're not going to not give him the ball. But the unsung hero, nobody talks about this guy. And if he has another good year, if they get him involved in the offense, I might be willing to hedge my bet a little bit on Cleveland. David Njoku, the tight end, is, to me, one of the most underrated tight ends in the National Football League. And if he can be a part of that offense still, then they got an opportunity to win that. I still think they're about a 500 team. And the schedule towards the beginning is a little bit, towards the end, isn't that bad for Cleveland. Let's see if we can't bring that up real quick. I can get it up on my handy-dandy schedule. I'd like their schedule. The last 4 games, they're home to Cincinnati, at Arizona, home to Baltimore, and at Cincinnati. They're winnable games. But the early part of the schedule, as I mentioned with Todd, this is tough. Their home opener's Tennessee, that's winnable. The Jets, it's a Monday Night Football game. Yeah, that could go either way. But then they're home to Los Angeles. And that's going to be a tough one. Then they're at Baltimore. Then they're at San Francisco. Cross-country trip. Monday Night Football again. Then they're home to Seattle, which is winnable. But then they're at New England and at Denver. So you've got 5 road games out of their first 8. Then they get a little bit of a stretch where they're home to Buffalo, home to Pittsburgh, home to Miami. Winnable games. But that first 8-game stretch, if they get 3-5 on that, couple that with Pittsburgh's very, very difficult or very easy opening stretch of their games, and I could see them 3 or 4 games behind Pittsburgh come the middle of November. And then this is a cast of characters with Cleveland that, you're never going to get a dull moment. And I think that's why everybody's going to love them, especially the media. Because Baker Mayfield's always going to give you a quote. Odell Beckham Jr. is always going to do something to give you a quote, either by his actions on or off the field. Nick Chubb, Duke Johnson, Jarvis Landry could really be the one that benefits too from this offense, by the way, but it's going to be fun to watch. Cleveland could be the best 8-8 team in all of football, but they're going to have to show me through that early part of the schedule. They can get through that 4-4 or 5-3, then look out. Then they will win the division, but I don't think it's going to happen. They got a tough early part of that schedule. It's going to be very, very difficult. So we'll have to wait and see on that. And Baltimore, I look at their lineup, and, as I was telling Todd, their offensive weapons do not scare me in the least. Very pedestrian. Gus Edwards is good. I'm not taking anything away from him. But last year, Lamar Jackson was 21 yards away from being the leading rusher on that team. And that's not going to cut it. I love Mark Andrews as a tight end. I think he's an up-and-comer. But John Brown, Willie Snead, and Michael Crabtree do not scare me. And John Brown's not even on the team anymore. So you've got Willie Snead and Marquise Brown and, Seth Roberts as your wideouts. Mark Ingram, he's a big pickup for them, but he's going to share the load with Gus Edwards, just like he shared it with Alvin Kamara in New England. Is he going to be happy with that? And Lamar Jackson, he played in all 16 games last year for Baltimore. This is his team now. Joe Flacco's not here. And I got to see more out of Lamar Jackson before I'm convinced that he's a team that could lead them to the playoffs. I just don't see it. I think Baltimore takes a step back. I think they're a 6-win team, maybe 7. Their defense is solid. I get it. But I just think they're a 7-win team at best. And Cincinnati, as we mentioned, they're snake bit. They lose A.J. Green again, one of the top receivers, when healthy, one of the top 5 receivers in the league. But he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He's going to miss probably the first month of the season. They got Tyler Boyd. They just signed him to an extension. He had 76 catches for 1,000 yards last year. Joe Mixon, almost 1,200 yards. Solid running game. They've got a decent offensive line. It seems like Andy Dalton's always written up, but Marvin Lewis is gone. Zach Taylor's going to be, he's the man there. This could be what Andy Dalton needed. He's got, but I do like the fact they're going to get Tyler Eifert back. But you talk about a brutal schedule. Cincinnati's got it. They were 4th place last year. Check this out. Now, four of their first 6 games are on the road. At Seattle, right off the get-go. Then they're home to San Francisco. That's winnable. At Buffalo and at Pittsburgh. That's a Monday night game. Then they get a home game with Arizona. That's winnable. Then they're at Baltimore. But, they got 2 home games after that. But these are tough games. Jacksonville and the Rams. So there's a real good possibility this team could start out 2-6. I mean, there's some of those games are 50-50, but I look at that schedule and I'm thinking, wow, that's harsh. They have 3 home games in a row. After that, their bye week, they play Baltimore. So they go 4 weeks without going on the road. That's where they got to make hay, but they're tough games. Jacksonville, the Rams, and they're home to Baltimore, which is winnable. Then they go to Oakland. But I do like the end of their schedule. They're home to New York against the Jets. You don't know with them. Jekyll and Hyde, they're coming, but I don't think they're there yet. Then they've got Cleveland at home, or at Cleveland, I beg your pardon. Then they're home to New England. Then they're at Miami, which could be winnable. Miami, they might be out of it by then. And then Cleveland at home to finish up the season. I see a 5-win team. Their home schedule, or the beginning of their schedule, is absolutely brutal. As of right now, I see a 5-win team. I see Baltimore taking a step back, and I just see Pittsburgh 11-5, and I see Cleveland an 9-win team at best. And 9 wins is not going to get them into the wild card. They'll be relevant, but I just don't think 9 wins is going to get them a wild card. But that's all going to hinge on the health of some teams' quarterback situations that we will talk about with our other 2 previews coming up in the next few weeks. And that, of course, is being AFC South and the NFC, or the AFC East and AFC South. And Andrew Luck comes to mind. We'll talk about them in a couple of weeks. Next week, our preview is going to be the AFC East. And we're going to talk about New England. We're going to talk about the Jets, Miami, some quarterback situation, Buffalo. That's all next week. So we invite you to stick around for that. Well, we, again, want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. We're about wrapping up the show here in about 5 minutes. Again, we want to thank John Eckles, the new commissioner of the Division II of the ACHA, for stepping out and coming on the show with us tonight. Great hire for Division II. I think he's full of energy. He's got some great ideas. He's been involved with the ACHA for a long time. He's been the out west. He's been the West Region coordinator for the last 4 or 5 years. He's made a couple of trips with the D2 select teams over to Russia, international teams. You know, he's been very successful at Utah State as a coach for the last, or for about 14 years. So 14, 15 years. So the insight that we were able to get with him tonight was great. And I want to thank Todd Corder for jumping on the show tonight and talking a potpourri, a cornucopia of sports, if you will. Again, Big 12. We talked about that with Todd. It's Oklahoma's to win. I like Jalen Hurt. He's going to be my sleeper pick to win the Heisman. And it's hard to believe that Oklahoma would have a sleeper pick with the last 2 Heisman winners coming from Oklahoma. But Lincoln Riley, I think, is going to turn him into a Heisman winner. Like I said, I like Mark Campbell in Iowa State to be my sleeper team, but Todd brought up some good points. Texas is going to be there. And you can't count out Oklahoma State. And it's going to be a 4-team race there. I don't think Baylor's got enough. Texas Tech, I think, is kind of in a rebuild. West Virginia is going to fall. When I saw that over-under, I got to thinking about it. I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds about right. Kansas, with Les Miles, you talk about a reclamation project and then some. Wow. Man, I'll tell you what, it's going to take some time. But I guess if anybody can turn it around, it's Les Miles going to Kansas. It's going to take a while for them to be relevant, if they ever will be relevant. But as far as the playoff, Oklahoma is going to be right there. The body of work, I don't know, is the schedule, is the non-conference schedule, is that going to hurt them? Let's see if we can't take a real quick look at Oklahoma with their schedule. Let's take a look at their schedule. They start out with Houston, which is on Labor Day weekend, but then they play South Dakota. Then they're at UCLA, so it's a mixed bag. Houston was a decent pickup for them. They should be favored in that one. South Dakota, yes, they're going. I can't believe they're playing them, but you can't complain, especially when all the other, the bigger schools, Clemson and all the SEC schools play the 1AA teams or the small 1A teams, or FCS, I beg your pardon, FBS, whatever you want to call them. But they do go to UCLA. Not all that daunting because UCLA's, they're nothing, in my opinion. We talked about it last week. Chip Kelly's got he's got a reclamation project of his own there, but it's going to be Oklahoma, I think, in Iowa State or Texas in the championship game. And I just think Oklahoma's right there. They're going to win. And then we're going to have to wait and see if they let 2 SEC teams in. It's going to come down. Is Notre Dame going to go undefeated with Ian Book at quarterback? Michigan or Ohio State, can they crack back into the national tournament? Oklahoma's going to be right there. They're going to be right there, either 4 or 5. If they run the table, they deserve to be in. If they get a loss, then let the discussions begin. So Oklahoma's my pick for the Big 12 champion. They don't have the divisions, so the top 2 teams play in the championship. It's going to be them in either Texas or Iowa State in that national tournament, or that Big 12 championship game at the end of the year. Well, next week we're going to preview the Big 10 and the AFC East as we roll on with our previews of major college and also the NFL. Well, again, we want to thank John Eckles for joining us here tonight, talking D2 ACHA hockey. Todd Corder jumping on the guest line. And we want to thank you, the listener and the viewer, for joining us here tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12 Ounce Sports Radio and 12 Ounce Sports TV. Hey, this reminder, everybody, keep your heads up. Keep your feet moving. Keep your sticks down. And as always, keep your minds open. Thanks you for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We'll see you next Tuesday night here on 12 Ounce Sports Radio and 12 Ounce Sports TV.